Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Commodity TV in a new edition of our online interview series. We want to get today an update from Targa Exploration, and Cameron Tymstra, the CEO, is here with us. Hey, good morning to Canada. How are you, Cameron?
Hi, I'm well, Yakin. How are you?
Perfect. Oh, fine. Thank you. Yeah, great to see you. Great to talk to you. Happy New Year, by the way.
Happy New
And
Year.
it's still January. It's allowed.
Yep, we're still
But
there.
you guys had yesterday, I would say, very good news because you announced a 5 kilometer long gold anomaly from your Opinaca till sampling. So looks like there is really something going on.
Yeah, I'm really excited about those results. Obviously, we went to Opinaca to search for lithium because that's what we're all about at Targa. But
Mhm,
we're exploring, and a lot of the areas our projects are located are areas that have been really underexplored for any mineral commodity historically. For example, Opinaca sits in one of the more dominantly metasedimentary basins in Quebec,
mhm,
whereas a lot of focus historically has been for things like gold and copper in the volcanic belts. Um,
mhm,
so we went out there and we said, well, we don't know what's out here. There's very little historical work. While we're out here sampling for lithium, we might as well test for things like gold and other elements in the lab as well, because you never know what you're going to find in these regions. So last
mhm,
week, our news was that we did find what we think is a lithium and cesium anomaly at the eastern end of our project that we're very excited
mhm,
about. But when we went back and looked at the results for things like gold and arsenic and antimony and tungsten, we see what we think is a really big anomaly, actually right in the middle of Opinaca for those elements. So really
yeah.
excited that we have potential for both lithium and gold on this project, especially given
Mhm,
the size of that anomaly. I mean, it's about 4 kilometers wide by 5 kilometers down
mhm,
ice. We don't know where the top of it is yet in the up ice direction because we were kind of limited on where we put that till grid. So certainly
mhm.
very excited to follow up on these anomalies and start tracing them back in the direction of that historical glacial movement to find out where they could potentially be coming from.
Okay, so this 5 by 4 kilometer gold anomaly, this comes in addition to the 2 by 1 kilometer lithium cesium tantalum anomaly?
That's right. The main lithium
Uh-huh.
anomaly was to the very southeast limit of the till sampling grid that we conducted, and the main gold anomaly was more in the central part, probably about 10 or 15 kilometers sort of northwest of the other anomaly there. We did have a smaller, higher grade gold anomaly as well, basically adjacent to where the lithium anomaly was. So
Hmm.
we're certainly going to follow up on that as well next year. And the best way
Hmm.
for us to follow up on that is really to continue extending those lines of till samples to the northeast in the sort of up ice direction until we can
Hmm.
find the head
Okay,
of the tail train.
so how does that come that you have like lithium cesium tantalum on the one hand, and on the other hand, very close to that, you have a gold anomaly? Is that a different geology, different rock? Is that coming from the glacier movement?
Well, it's not uncommon to find lithium
Hmm.
occurrences occurring in the same vicinity as gold occurrences. For example, Patriot Battery Metals, their very famous Corvette deposit that they discovered a couple of years ago. One of the biggest stories in the lithium space to come out of Canada. When they originally optioned that project a couple of years ago, before they made the big lithium discovery,
Hmm.
they were talking about going in to do field work to look for things like gold and copper as well, because historically there were high grade gold and copper samples from the same property that they were going into and ultimately finding a big lithium deposit. So,
Hmm.
geologically speaking, you can certainly find multiple different deposit types in these types of settings.
Okay, so now we are talking about a gold anomaly, which is really large. I mean, 20 square kilometers is quite big. You staked additional 40, almost 42,000 hectares to cover the potential up ice source, which I think makes absolutely sense. But also, on the other hand, you have 15 projects in 4 provinces which cover 412,000 hectares, all for lithium. So, will you move now a little bit away from the lithium, or is the gold like a beautiful add on?
The gold is certainly a bonus for us. Obviously, it's been
Hmm.
a bit of a weaker, well, it's certainly been a weaker lithium market in the past 12 months. We've seen a pretty steep decline in lithium prices over that time period. So, certainly having another card to play with this gold prospectivity at Opinaca as well is a really nice bonus for target investors. Something we're certainly going to be pursuing in the new year, but we're going to be
Hmm.
pursuing that alongside our lithium exploration as well.
Hmm. Okay, super. So then let's come to the lithium projects. Opinaca, assume is the focus you are really having on, I could imagine, but you have
Mhm.
also Quebec Lithium, you have then Superior White Metal and the Ontario projects. So where do you see for this year, 2024, has just started. Where do you see the focus? What is your game plan, working plan?
So outside of Opinaca, which will certainly be one of our key focuses for this
Mhm,
summer, we'd certainly like to get to as much of our portfolio as we can that we haven't visited yet. So last year we did not get an opportunity to visit our projects in northern Manitoba or northern Saskatchewan. So we're certainly
mhm,
going to be pushing to get to those four projects this year, particularly Manitoba, because our two projects in that province are historic lithium occurrences. So they have known
mhm,
occurrences of spodumene either on or next to the property. There's been historic drill holes right next to us as well that intersected higher grades of lithium. And we think those projects were historically underexplored for lithium. Most of the people we believe that were exploring there, particularly the Tanko Mining Company in the 1980s, was looking really
mhm,
for resources of tantalum and cesium that occur alongside lithium. But in the 1980s, people weren't really building lithium batteries back then. So we think the areas that had actually better potential for better grades of lithium were kind of passed over in favor of the areas at higher grades of things like cesium and tantalum. So certainly very keen to get into those projects. Right now, we're working on our First Nations consultation process with the First
mhm,
Nations groups that live in those areas around those two projects, and also looking to get into northern Saskatchewan. So we have two projects in northern Saskatchewan, Prince Albert Lake and White Meadow. Prince Albert Lake, one of our neighbors over there, Acme Lithium, has made lithium discoveries on their project as well in the past year. Originally, there were just lithium bearing boulders in the area that the glaciers had pushed around, but they have made some in situ occurrences of spodumene as well on the neighboring property. So we're certainly very keen to get up there this year.
mhm. Okay, so when I see at your presentation, the identification of drill targets for this year shall be done then for Red Cross Lake and Opinaca. Yeah. And would that mean that you already want to drill them this year?
So we don't have drill targets located yet, but one of the best
Mhm,
things about these types of deposits that we're looking for, the lithium pegmatite deposits, is that in general, if you have bedrock exposure, they're normally going to be exposed at surface. That's not always the case. The Tanko mine is a great exception to that, in that it does not
mhm,
outcrop at surface. I think it was kind of discovered by accident, but most of these deposits, when you look at other companies that have made discoveries in the past 1 or 2 years, they're kind of made looking down at your feet when you're walking across the field. Sometimes you have to do more geochemistry, like we're doing at Opinaca, but for the most part, if you have a lot of bedrock exposure, these deposits, should be exposed at surface. You should be able to identify spodumene mineralization in that rock at surface, and be able to sort of take channel samples and chip samples to kind of confirm whether or not there's reasonable or appreciable levels of lithium in there worthy of bringing in a drill rig. So we're not doing like a lot of like geophysics and kind of hoping that there's something down there before we
mhm,
bring an expensive drill rig in. You generally can confirm at surface that you have good grades of lithium, particularly in the mineral spodumene, if you can, before actually bringing a drill rig in. So there's certainly some
mhm,
potential to identify drill targets from an early phase of exploration by simply seeing them at surface. In the case of Opinaca, because we do have a lot of till cover there, that's why we wanted to do earlier phase work where we're doing this till sampling program to help us narrow down these big projects that we have. Opinaca was originally a 43,000 hectare project. On the lithium side of things, we've managed to narrow that down to just a small area of maybe
mhm.
several square kilometers where we think has the most potential. Now we can really focus on that for future phases, and hopefully find something outcropping at surface that we can follow up on, and that may serve as a future drill target as well.
Mhm. Okay. So when I look at the map here, you are surrounded by Rio Tinto joint ventures.
Yes,
Would
I
would
believe
would
it's
that be of help in the future?
Well, it certainly doesn't hurt. I believe to the northeast of us is a joint venture with Midland Exploration and Rio
Hmm.
Tinto. To the
Hmm.
northwest of us, there's
And
another one up there as
Azimut,
well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So it's nice having
Okay.
big neighbors, and those were high dollar price tag option agreements. I think one of them was at least a $65 million total earn in option agreement. So they're certainly looking at spending significant amounts of money to come into these areas up here. So it's certainly very very attractive area for us.
Hmm. Okay. If we look at your project overall, how is, let's say, the infrastructure situation? Meaning, do you always have to fly in by helicopter, or do you have also possibilities to drive in by road, or let's say with a SUV, a four-wheel truck, or how does that look like?
So it's certainly a bit of a mix. For example, in Ontario, all of our projects in Ontario are road accessible,
Hmm.
particularly our Slim Jim and Skylake projects. They're very close to a highway. There's a power line that goes along the highway. We can stay in a local town at a hotel and drive to the
Hmm.
project every day. Pardon me. Some of our other projects, though, like northern Manitoba, northern Saskatchewan, are more remote. So we're a bit of a mix. At Opinaca, we're about 45 kilometers from the main road, and that main road also has a main power line on it. So we're kind of in the middle of some
Hmm.
projects as well.
Okay, super. Then a question to your new acquisitions, Pegmatite Beach and Harricana. Um, for what reasons have you bought that? I mean, you have already so many land holdings, so many projects, and let's say you are still a small exploration company. So
Mhm.
how does that fit in? What is the sense behind?
Well, certainly, we think having, the biggest portfolio that we can gives us the most shots on net and the most chances of
Hmm.
finding a discovery success. We don't
Hmm.
need 15 projects to result in 15 discoveries. We really just need one. Some
Yep.
people liken it to buying lottery tickets. We think we put a lot more effort into it than buying a lottery ticket, certainly. So we look for a lot of key indicators before we really consider acquiring a project. One of those is,
Hmm.
well, we like it to be large land packages if we can. Again, we're covering the biggest area possible. We look for geochemical indicators, whether that's in till or soil samples or in lake sediment samples as well, that show indications of concentrations of lithium, cesium,
Hmm.
tantalum. We look at historical reports to see, are these projects in areas or geological subprovinces that have other known lithium occurrences? Do they
Hmm.
have certain key geological units that may be indicators of the right type of geology? Do they have indicator minerals in pegmatites that have been historically mapped but maybe never tested for lithium? So we look for key indicator minerals, things like beryl, that may indicate that the pegmatites are fractionating, which means that they're sort of concentrating those less compatible elements, lithium being one of those
Hmm.
elements. So we can kind of look through old reports and things like that to find indications of some of these indicators, and we kind of go down a checklist and say, okay, these kind of have the right indicators that we're
Hmm.
looking for, but no one's ever been here to look for lithium previously. So we have a big land package, right indicators. We want to get in here and assess it very quickly, and sometimes some of those projects are going to turn out to not be very prospective after we do the first pass approach. Some of them will warrant going back and doing more, and so every year we're just going to continue curating our portfolio and dropping the least prospective ones and focusing our future spending and our future efforts on the most prospective ones.
Hmm. Okay, super. Then let's talk shortly about capital share structure and what is cash in the bank. Because you have 69 million shares outstanding, but you have 30.6 million warrants. So the warrants I see there are 10 cents, 20 cents, 70 cents. What is the expiry of that?
So we did just close another financing just before Christmas. So our shares outstanding is closer to about 85 million right now, and we closed about
Okay,
two
then
point.
this is,
Yeah, sorry, we haven't updated that one yet, but
yeah.
that's in the works this week. But
Okay,
we
good.
raised about $2.45 million from that financing,
Hmm.
of which about 1.6 million was flow through. So we're pretty well cashed
Hmm.
up to execute on the next phase of work, both at Opinaca and elsewhere on our portfolio. So we're sitting on that in the bank right now. In terms of
Hmm.
timing of the warrants, most of them are dated to around 2025, 2026, I believe.
Hmm.
And we issued some additional warrants from the most recent financing as well. That will have a 2-year term
Hmm.
on them.
Okay, yeah, because when I calculate that, that would easily bring you like $5 million into the bank, if everything. Well, the 70. Let's exclude the 70 cents. That's maybe a little bit far away from the share price today. But the 10 and the 20 cents would bring you easily 3.5 to $4 million. So that would help a lot, right?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. So certainly if we see some,
Uh,
continued growth in the stock price, we've obviously had a very good response in the past
mhm,
sort of week and a half to both the lithium discovery news and the gold discovery news as well, in terms of those anomalies from Opinaca. So
mhm.
certainly some
Okay.
potential to bring in some funds in the future from the warrant side of things. And for the warrants that
Mhm,
we just issued for our most recent financing, those actually
mhm,
have an accelerator clause. So if our share price is above a certain level for a certain amount of time, we can kind of fast track the expiry date there
mhm.
and kind of push people to
Okay,
exercise those.
super. Okay, then I see 51% are management insiders, HNWIs. Is that still the case? And what has management exactly?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a mix now that we've certainly expanded our board.
Hmm.
Targa is now a bit of a jointly supported entity by both Inventa Capital, but also now Discovery Group, with Jim Paterson coming on as our chairman at Targa, Jim being one of the
Hmm.
principals over there at Discovery Group, and with John Robbins, who's the other principal at Discovery, serving as one of our strategic advisors. So those are now insiders now. Both of them are also very large shareholders of Targa. So those numbers are going to be pretty similar even after the recent financing in terms of
Hmm.
ownership by management and board.
Okay, super. So 2024, what's the biggest point on your wish list?
Certainly, both a gold and a lithium discovery at Opinaca.
Okay, super.
Maybe I'm
That
just being
sounds
greedy,
good.
but that's certainly what we're shooting for.
Okay, super. Yeah, then I wish you lots of success for that. Please keep it going. Yeah, because I'm a shareholder too. And yeah, would be great to talk then soon again. And I'm pretty sure we meet us at PDAC.
Thank you, Joaquin. Yeah, we'll definitely see you here in Toronto.
Super. Thank you very much, Cameron.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Joaquin.
ladies and gentlemen, that was Cameron Tymstra, the CEO of Targa Exploration, and you heard it, 412,000 square hectares, not square kilometers, 412,000 hectares would be a little bit too much. With 15 lithium projects, now in addition comes all of a sudden a gold anomaly at Opinaca in addition, and that looks really great. They are in one of the best mining jurisdictions in the world, in the heart of Canada, and they move on with the exploration. That's exactly what we need for the future because we need a much, much more metal in the future. Check out that company. Thanks for watching us and bye bye from Switzerland.